Hey everybody, how's it going today? Um, Today's video is going to be, I guess a continuation of last video I posted. Um, so we're just gonna pick up, after my mom passed away. So, after that, things at home got a little weird. I shouldn't even say weird, just more difficult. I mean, my brothers were younger. I mean, obviously they were old enough to understand what happened and everything. But yeah, it hit everybody hard, but I felt like it hit both of them, uh, and my dad a lot harder because they were younger, and like, not that it didn't hit me hard, it did, but like, they were just younger. There was a lot of things that they weren't gonna get to experience with having both parents around. Um. So yeah. Um. I'm gonna focus more on my brothers for this video, I think, because I'm gonna make a separate video about my dad. But yeah, back into it. Both of my brothers, they're very different. Uh, the middle one, especially now, is a lot. He's very laid back. Doesn't really like confrontation all that much. Like, he's very much, I guess, tries to be the peacekeeper. And then my younger brother is just, the best words I can use to describe him is he's just his own. He's his own person. He just is who he is, and he is not ashamed of who he is. Obviously, nobody should be ashamed of who they are, but he's just very boldly himself. He doesn't care what people think. He just does what he does, and that's him. But I will say they were not always like that. Especially my younger brother. Like, he always kind of had, or I guess kind of leaned in that direction, but it was nowhere near how it is today, which is why I want to focus on them, because my mom's death really had a big part in shaping both of their personalities today, with the way that they dealt with and coped with my mom's passing. Yeah, I don't know exactly what they went through. I can just tell you what I saw when I was going through it and when I still lived at that house. And so I'll start with my middle brother. When my mom passed away, that weekend, he had gone to my aunt's house to stay the night with my cousin and just visit with them. So he was at my aunt's house when they called my aunt, and my aunt told him, and she said that, obviously he got really upset, but then he immediately was just like, take me home. Like, you need to take me home. I want to go home, and be with my dad and my brother. My youngest brother was at a camp for children and teenagers whose parents were diagnosed and had cancer. And so they called the camp to tell them, and they told my brother and took him, my youngest brother, off to be by himself until we could come pick him up. But yeah, my middle brother got there. I mean, obviously they were both extremely sad and upset. But my middle brother eventually, got back to the house, and he was really vocal about, he said, I knew I shouldn't have left. Like I just had a feeling that I should have stayed here. I shouldn't have left. And he was really, I don't want to say beating himself up about it, but he was really upset that he had decided to go stay at my aunt's house because he wanted to be there. I'm going to backtrack for a second, and I apologize for going off the path. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people in my family don't know this much information. But the day that my mom died, the morning that my mom died, we had in-home care nurses because my dad worked night shift. He was on swing shift and he was working night shift. So when he worked night shift, we had nurses come. Just so I would help as much as I could, but then I went to sleep. The nurses were there through the night until I got up the next morning to, transition. And the nurse came to wake me up, and at first, obviously there was no alarm because she didn't really give me any reason to be alarmed. But then, she said, hey, I need you to wake up and come in here real quick. And I thought, she was just leaving, and I was like, yeah, I'll be there, and I'll be there in just a second. Give me a minute, because I just woke up. And then the next words out of her mouth were, no, your mom's not breathing. You need to come here now. To which I just jumped out of my bed and ran into my mom's room. The nurse was already on the phone with 911. And they were like, oh, you need to do CPR or start CPR until the ambulance gets there, which my mom had a do not resuscitate. But, I was just doing what they told me to do until the ambulance stuff got there. And then they were like, there's nothing we can do. Just don't, do not resuscitate. But, when I went in her room, she was still alive for about 30 seconds. And, I was holding her there. And, I think that's why it hit me as hard as it did. When somebody dies in your arms, it's not... Seeing somebody you love die in the first place sucks, but that really hit me hard. Sorry to go off on a tangent, like I said. As I was sitting here talking about it, I was like, I feel like this is an important part of my story. And that's another thing. I obviously I don't know if I've told anybody that. So yeah, some people might have known. I can't really remember, but here you go. Sorry. Anyway, like I said, my middle brother was just real beaten up about that. He just was like, I shouldn't have went. I should have stayed. Which I'm glad that he was not there when that happened. I'm glad both of my brothers were gone when that happened. I'm glad, did it suck being in the house when that happened? Yeah, but I'm glad it was me. I'm glad I was the only one there, and my other brothers weren't there. Because that was a really scary, traumatic thing. Anyway, and then with my youngest brother, I said he was at that camp for children whose parents had cancer, and me and two of my aunts went out there to pick him up. And he was also really upset, but he, like me, internalizes a lot of what he's feeling. He doesn't like talking to people. And I think in my opinion anyway. That's kind of why he is the way he is today, where he just lives how he wants, you know. He doesn't like rules. You know, he just expresses himself, and I think it's because of, like, a lot of it is because of that. A lot of it also has to do with how life went on after that. I mean, obviously they were still in high school, and, like, you know, I won't say I filled the role of my mom, because obviously I can't do that. I'm not my mom. I aspire to be as much like her as I can be, but I'm not my mom. But I did my best, you know, to help them cope with it and help them at least try to talk to me, and they did a little bit sometimes, told me how they were feeling, you know, and I'm not gonna put all that out there, because that's on them. I'm gonna talk to them and see if I can maybe get them on here to talk, but that's, again, entirely up to them. But yeah, just the dynamic of that, you know, I was trying to step in and fill that role, because my dad, again, works swing shift for night shift, and, you know, to pay, money had to be tight with all those medical bills. He worked a lot of doubles, he worked a lot of overtime. You know, he couldn't always be there. He wasn't, after my mom died, he wasn't there a lot. You know, when he was home, a lot of the time, he was sleeping. Because, I mean, obviously you need sleep to function. So I tried to be there for my brothers as much as I could. But, you know, the dynamic itself in that house for a while, which is it was really sad. It was really tense, because everybody was dealing with the grief and the sadness in their own way. You know, and I feel like, you know, in situations like that, everybody needs to deal and cope in their own way. And I'm not ever gonna sit here and say there are correct and incorrect. Well, I will say there are, in my opinion, incorrect ways to cope with things, but I'm also not gonna tell people that they're wrong for what they choose to do, because that's just what you choose to do. As destructive as some things are with how people deal with things, that's just how they chose to deal with things. And I think a lot, I even went through some of that. I'll talk about that in my next video, with a lot of how I started to deal with things, and how a lot of it, in my opinion, was not healthy for me or for my brothers, because, you know, at that point in time, I would say that they were looking up to me, and I was under a lot of pressure, because I wanted to try to be a good example for them, and I wanted to try to be there for them, but also, like, on the inside, I was hurting real bad. And there was a giant void, and it took me a really long time to heal it. I'm going to use the word heal. And I tried to fill that big hole with a lot of things that didn't work and were not very healthy. And yeah, we'll talk about that in the next video, I guess. I know this video's kind of been all over the place, and I'm sorry for that. But yeah, just thinking about these last few videos, the anxiety's hitting me, because a lot of the stuff is going to get really real, and it's hard for me to talk about, but I'm going to do it. Because, yeah, you know, the main reason for even having this channel is just to normalize this, and yeah, showing people, you know, even if it's hard, it's possible. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.